Hello dear listener, I fixed the echo in editing. I finally decided to sit down and edit for a long while rather than the normal 10 minutes of lazy refinement that normally happens. Also Adobe Audition actually worked, sort of, so that made editing possible to do. However, due to the trash program that is Adobe Audition, the Vince's audio recording was borked for the second half of the show and his voice was pulled from the other mic. Regardless, enjoy a somewhat quality and moderately refined experience with this episode of the VR Shiz Show.
Alright, and we are live with the VR Shiz Show back again.
Return of the Mac. I'm back.
Return of the Mac.
Oh yeah, you don't know that song, I'm sorry.
No, I'm uncultured. I'm sorry.
No, you're very cultured. It's almost a meme song at this point. But
Almost?
Almost.
Not quite?
Not quite.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
You have to elevate it to that point for me.
Eventually, when I start making Little Mac montages, I plan on using that one for the second one.
Of course you do. Anyway, like I said, welcome back to the VR Shiz Show. This week, again, keep it up with how I set it up last time, kind of segmenting it into two pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't have a name for this first section of what media we've been going over and watching and consuming. I think I'm going to give it a nice media consumed and then give it some monster voice or something.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something clever for media and consuming.
We're not clever, Vince.
No, I was thinking about the conversation.
You're overestimating anything we can do here.
I was thinking about the thing that I accidentally taught Quiz.
Uh-huh.
Which was vor, and I'm like, I don't think we can use that in this context.
Yeah, no. Don't look up anything that Vince says, ever.
Yeah, Quiz, if you decide to listen to this one, I apologize again. Anyways, do you want to start off? What did you end up taking in this week? Or last week?
This week was mostly focused on trying to finish up a game called Furi. I think I'd told you about it a little while ago. So, for those of you who don't know, Furi came out in 2016, so it is not a new game by any means. But I had gotten about a third of the way through, and I'm like, alright, I'll come back to it. I said that a year ago. I am finally back to it, and it is absolutely incredible. It is such an incredible game. So the game itself is a 10 boss rush plus a couple DLC secret bosses, but that's literally all the game is. The entire gameplay is just facing down these bosses. Uh-huh. And alongside it is a really interesting basic kind of story with an interesting bit of lore of how the world is kind of deal. Because, I know we mentioned last time that, I'm not huge into story, but I am huge into lore. Mm-hmm. World building does it for me. Not necessarily the story you tell, but world building, that's what gets me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game, phenomenal, super tight controls. But it's just a bullet hell mixed with boss rush, mixed with fighting games, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do perfect parries, you have to dodge, you have to shoot. It's very, very interesting because you have literally all the tools you need at the very beginning of the game, and nothing ever changes on your kit at all. It's just how you react to what's being thrown at you, and how the projectiles come at you, how the bosses come at you, and it's really, really fascinating. But the thing that really sells this game more than anything else is the music.
Mm-hmm.
This soundtrack is definitely, for sure, top 10, maybe top 5 of all time video game soundtracks, because it's just a big composite of all of these electronic artists doing crazy hype synthwave, and it is just pulsing with every song is just really gets you hype, and it just keeps the energy going and going and going for each boss fight. I watched, I think I posted a big review on it about this guy talking about the game and like how tight the mechanics are and all of this. But the one thing that he didn't talk about, surprisingly, was the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. It's so good. It features a guy that I've really come to love called Carpenter Brut. I assume that's how it's pronounced, but it's Carpenter like the job and then B-R-U-T, so it could be Brut. But I just assume that it's, German or something, and it's Brut. Carpenter Brut. I assume he's European, because, who else is making synthwave nowadays?
That's a valid fact. Yeah, that's a valid point, actually. Yeah, no.
I mean, Eurobeat is a genre for a reason.
Yeah, that's when you said synthwave, the first thing I thought was Eurobeat, and I was like, yeah.
I mean, Eurobeat is just the most hype synthwave, which I would say this game isn't yet. But no, Carpenter Brut, his music is so good. He did a couple of songs on the soundtrack, and I showed you his cover of Maniac.
Oh, yeah, that's the guy.
That's the guy. His stuff. He also, I found out, did Hotline Miami.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But the dude has some serious chops with some of the remixes and stuff that he does, and I've just really loved him. So I guess that's kind of 2-in-1 media, the game and the music. For me, at least.
For me, so I am currently going through Persona 4.
Yes. Persona 4 Golden on Steam, right?
On Steam, yes. It's pretty much...
Since your computer is built, now you can play it?
Yeah, that was like the one thing. That was the one tipping point for me. I was already planning to buy a computer, but since I found out I could play it on Steam, might as well also buy it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's funny because, I'm a little bit of the opposite when it comes to what I enjoy in a game. I love story. I do definitely love world building, and I think it's super important more than anything else. But if a good story can pull me along, even some of the lackluster mechanics in a game don't really matter to me. Just like I told you, Danganronpa is probably my favorite series of all time. Yeah. And you're literally just playing a first-person shooter that's also a visual novel. That's pretty much it. Yeah. It's dumb ridiculous, but it's fantastic. But so I've been playing Persona 4, which I hear from a lot of other people is probably the best in the series. I'm uncultured. I started with 5, and
I mean, that's what most people started with. Isn't it the best-selling one in the franchise?
I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
By a long shot, too?
Yeah, I mean, one of the selling points for me, because I didn't initially like Persona 5. I bought the game for $20, and I got burned out about the 6th palace, which does not happen to me, ever. I don't get burned out from video games. Yeah. It's very, very, very hard for me to. But one of the reasons why I kept going back and eventually finished it in Royale was the music. I would say personally for me, the music in the Persona series is probably some of the most incredible music I've ever heard, especially for a video game. What's his name? Shoji Meguro is probably my favorite composer of all time. That dude just works on all of the Persona stuff.
I mean, I've heard the stuff you play in car rides and stuff from Persona 5, and I'm like, man, this is tempting me to play the game. It gets me close, and if it does hit PC, then I'll probably play it. But yeah, as it stands at the moment,
I will buy it for you on PC if it ever comes. So Atlas, if you ever listen to this,
yeah, all of Atlas's PR team is just listening right now to this podcast.
Yeah, they will be. But so the music is absolutely incredible overall. I love the fact that they sing it in English for the most part. It's weird how I was taking a look at all 3 games, Persona 3 through 5, which are the most famous ones. How stylistically different all of the music is, but it's made by the same dude. Yeah. And then Persona Q2 Labyrinth, I think that's what it's called. It's hip hop and jazz put together, and I'm just how does this man keep making different music for different games, but it all comes from this one dude? Yeah. Which they need to be paying him all the money. Yeah. Personally,
I mean, For me, I have two favorite composers when it comes to video games. For me, it's Ben Prunty, who did FTL and Into the Breach. But he's also done some other stuff. He did like a track on Celeste and stuff. And for the most part, his style is very consistently just nice electronic music. Not very synthy. It's just kind of electronic, almost chiptune, but not totally. But for Into the Breach, his style completely shifted because the developers were like, hey, we know the normal sounds you use. So when we asked for you to do FTL, Fast and Light, the soundtrack for that, we wanted you because, the normal space music is big, sweeping orchestras with like Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff. So we wanted something electronic. Now that you are good at electronic, how about you do some nice orchestral stuff for Into the Breach? And he's like, I'll try. And then he comes out with this fantastic soundtrack. So
yeah, that makes sense. So for me personally, my two favorite composers, definitely Shoji Meguro. I do want to say Mick Gordon. I do, but I can't.
Why?
Because
you can.
I can, but then I'd be lying because he's my third favorite. He's right there.
Yeah.
Shoji is second, and my first is actually the guy who makes the music for Danganronpa, which is one of the reasons why I always go back to that series. His name is, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think it's Masafumi Takada.
Okay.
Fun fact, he shares a birthday with me.
Wow.
Yeah, we're born on the same day.
Do you wish him happy birthday on your birthday?
I didn't know until right now, so I'm going to start wishing him happy birthday on my birthday.
Oh, that's good. That's important.
The man is absolutely incredible. The overall tracks for that, they're very funky and weird. But if you know anything about Danganronpa and its style, it matches it so perfectly. I was working today. I was just listening to Danganronpa music while I was just vibing, and I realized that I got a lot of work done in that time period, and I'm like, oh, this is more powerful than I realized. Like, the music's, it's weird, but it works so well that you just enjoy it because of the overall tone of it. I think it's funny that we're talking about this stuff personally right now because it also does go into our next, into the actual topic at hand, right?
Yeah, so I was thinking since a lot of our episodes we end, we'll talk about this next time, and then we don't.
Yeah.
So I figure it is finally one of those next time episodes.
I think we've already mentioned this subject like 2 or 3 times at this point.
Yeah, so it is going to be talking about music just because we're both very musically inclined, I would say. I mean, you can actually play instruments, I can't, so.
You can't. You can play the bass. It's just funny how you can only do bass lines. And I just look at you and I'm like, I can't do that, but I can play the bass. So it's just, to me, it's one of the funniest things.
See, I just learned all the bass tabs that I could find for all the songs, and I'm like, ooh, that's a nice bass line. I'm going to learn that, and then not the rest of the song at all.
To be fair, I learned how to play Rivers in the Desert from Persona 5 because I saw you play, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me try that. So I think it's funny how, like, when it comes to music, a lot of our stuff kind of interlaps.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have specific preferences.
We have very vastly different, but also very...
it's not similar. It's something else.
Overlapping in a way. But, I mean, I know you as, like, my main hip-hop friend, kind of.
Which is really funny to think about, because I practically, like, whenever I listen to hip-hop, and even then, it's not nearly as much as I used to. It's only, like, you know, hip-hop during the 90s into the early 2000s.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy, because for me, I am not huge into it, but as long as it doesn't have the stupid clicky hi-hat that, like, trap has.
I hate trap music.
I cannot stand the clicky hi-hat because it just ingrains in my head, and I'm like, I hate this so much.
It's like nails on a chalkboard.
There was only one song that has ever gotten it, and I'm like, all right, you get a pass.
What song is it?
It's Beastie Boys' Brass Monkey.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, but I feel like the Beastie Boys get away with a lot of things.
The Beastie Boys are true artists in every sense of the word, and they can do whatever they want.
I unironically love them so much, and their music is so nonsensical.
I don't think you need to add the word unironically, because I don't know if there's anyone who ironically likes the Beastie Boys.
That is fair.
Everyone just loves the Beastie Boys. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who just didn't enjoy them.
You either love the Beastie Boys or you haven't heard their music, practically.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's my main exposure to hip-hop music. It's just mid to late 90s to early 2000s. I grew up listening to that stuff because of my parents. It's funny because you and I had talked, and you were talking to me about ska, and you were showing me some stuff, and I'm like, oh, I know this song.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, is this band considered ska? And you were just looking at me, not realizing that my dad showed me so many different genres that you actually listened to that you just never put together was that genre.
Yeah.
Which is one of the funniest things to me, because that man has listened to a lot of things.
Yes. I've gotten that from what you've just told me about, like, oh, my parents listened to this, that, and the other, and stuff like that. I mean, to finish off with hip-hop, for me, I'm even more narrow than you in it, because for me, it's basically Beastie Boys, Sugar Hill Gang, Run DMC, and any random song that I just happen to listen to. But even then, it's,
That's
just...
like late 80s to like very early.
Yes. That's my prime rap, is when it was first kind of really taking its roots.
Yeah.
With like I love Sugar Hill Gang. They're hilarious.
Their style overall is just, I don't want to say it's poppy. It's very upbeat.
Yeah.
The way that they rhyme and everything is just so smooth. Personally, for me, so obviously you know that I'm a West Coast boy. We were born on the West Coast. At least I was. You can only imagine the disappointment in all of my friends' faces when I told them that my favorite rapper was Biggie Smalls, an East Coast rapper.
Mm-hmm.
The man is just clean. Like his lyricism is some of the most clever that I've ever heard in hip hop. I will say that there is one modern rapper that I enjoy so much, and it's Childish Gambino. If you know Donald Glover, the man is just multi-talented. He can act.
He's incredible. Dude's amazing. I've shown you some of his old comedy.
Yeah.
It does not pass Twitter blue check marks today, I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It is really offensive, but it's so funny.
Well, I mean, if you've heard Bonfire, which is probably unironically my favorite song by him, that song is that. He made it like maybe 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Which, yeah, it's... You could not get away with it now.
Yeah.
But I think he's incredible. But we can also talk about the other aspects of it, not just hip-hop music. I love hip-hop because it kind of reminds me of the English language.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's an amalgamation of a bunch of other genres, just like the English language is an amalgamation of a bunch of other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think I like early hip-hop more than later hip-hop, because there was still an emphasis on a lot of the rhythm and the instrumentals behind it in an interesting way, because I really honestly do not care about vocals as much as almost anyone else I know. Like, I really like punk. You don't have to have any sense of talent to sing in a punk band. You just have to scream loud enough that people don't care.
Okay, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one getting the vibe when you were showing me just different things. I think it was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I think I could do this. This wouldn't be that hard.
Oh yeah, that's why I love punk. Because that's the thing about punk, is that it was for the everyman. Yeah. Similar to, I mean, rap is, again, another genre like that is for the everyman. But with early rap and hip-hop, again, the thing that I latch onto is how they did the instrumentation is sampling.
Yeah.
And it was sampling a lot of the bands that I like. Like, Run DMC sampled Aerosmith.
Yeah,
I mean, they're most famous for it because they eventually collabed with Aerosmith on a song.
And it's funny to think, like, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Beastie Boys started out as a punk band initially, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of their stuff it's very grimy, very punk. It's not total punk because again, they were very heavy on the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I just think it's funny how like even two genres that you don't think are related.
Oh yeah, no, hip hop entirely has its roots in rock.
Yeah.
Which that's my favorite thing is that rock totally has its roots in the black community again, with starting out as, all right, it's going to branch off of this kind of weird sweet music, as it was called, I'm pretty sure. And then it's going to go into boogie woogie. And then all the black artists are going to go, yeah, we're going to do some crazy stuff. And then rock and roll comes about. And then kind of same thing with hip hop, you know? Similar thing of, all right, we're going to do some crazy stuff with the music that's already happening. Yeah. And then exploded in popularity. And then, oh, everyone else wants in on it now. But it's super fascinating. I love music history. I think I've
ever want a really good understanding of music history. Maybe we'll just have one where you go ham.
Oh yeah, we'll probably. I was thinking about talking about ska this episode, but we'll probably save that again for another episode, just because
we would have to start from the beginning. Like I think we'd have to skip.
In the beginning, in the mid 19th century, there was gospel music, and then we'll just go from there.
What I meant was like from the beginning of that specific podcast. I think we'd have to skip the first part because it is a lot of history.
Yeah,
pretty fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, the reason I know so much about music history is, aside from taking a couple classes on it, is that junior year when I should have been, you know, doing coding in my coding class, I'm like, well, I got this computer in front of me, and I've determined that I actually hate coding. So instead, what I'm going to do is just spend time on Wikipedia reading about all my favorite bands, because for me, music only really started to become a focus for me in high school.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was, I had my iPod Touch, and boy, let me tell you, Linkin Park. And that was it.
Yeah.
And a couple songs by All American Rejects, because they did that one Bionicle commercial.
I forgot that the All American Rejects were a thing. Like, name, and I'm like,
look, pop rock is for the most part even worse than pop punk in terms of how cringy it can be. But gosh, do I love the All American Rejects.
I forgot that they were a thing.
They're such a legitimately great band, except for their last album. Last two albums? I don't remember. Because after the album that had Gives You Hell on it, they went radio silent for a while. And then they released a new album, and it was like, all right, it's got a couple songs on it. And then they went radio silent for even longer, and I don't know if they've put out a new album. They put out a couple of singles, and I'm like, wow, this is not rock. This is garbage, in fact. You should not have released this onto the world. Nobody deserved to hear this. And then, after all of that, they came out with this really fantastic acoustic piece, and then they just went back to, all right, more trash. I'm like, thank you. That's when you gave me that acoustic song, that's what I was really hoping you would do, is immediately abandon everything from that single and then go back to the trash you were making.
Just to show a goodwill to spit in your face.
Yeah.
I will say that my personal music taste now is so heavily influenced by the games that I play.
Yeah.
I got into, so I don't think you know this, but I got into like, what is it called? Folk
music?
I got into folk music and things that are adjacent to that because of because of Red Dead Redemption, actually.
Yeah.
The song that you hear by, what is his name? Is it Jose Gonzalez? On the last mission when you're writing and it's just playing that song as you're writing over there. I was like, this is really good. This might be Jose Ramirez. It's a Hispanic name.
Yeah.
I started listening to the rest of his stuff. And
I was about to say something really racist, and I'm like, I know you'd be okay with it, but I'm not sure everyone else listening would.
It's not racist, it's prejudice. I just want to point that out. I personally am okay with it. I don't. Words don't hurt. But in order to protect my Caucasian friend, I think it's best that you say it.
Yeah.
But so funnily enough, that eventually led me to who's probably my favorite personal artist, not composer, artist, because I ended up listening to one of his songs, which is Sean James.
Yeah, you've showed me his stuff.
Man, this man's pretty good. But then I heard his music in The Last of Us when he did the commercial for it, and I was like, man, this guy's music's really good. So then I bought the album, and I'm like, wow, this album is really good. And then the next one came out, which I cannot remember the name of, but there were a few bangers on that one. The man pretty much only used chains and a bass for that entire album.
All right.
But it was so good. I
Yeah.
was like, what is this? And then he came out with Light in the Dark, which is definitely stylistically different from the other two. I think it's his most mature album. Like, it's weird to me, like, all of my favorite stuff that I listen to currently, like a lot of the synthwave remixes that I listen to right now come from video games or inspiration from those things. The Japanese pop and funk that I listen to now come from, like, the Persona series, things like that. Like, it's weird to me to think that most of the stuff that I listen to currently is dictated by the games that I play.
Yeah. To backtrack a hair, and then I want to talk about a little bit of something adjacent to Sean James. The thing I need you to play Red Dead Redemption 2 for is the soundtrack. Because if you look behind you, Vince, you'll see that I have the soundtrack and the score on vinyl.
Yeah.
Because they're both fantastic. The individual artists, like, they got, country legend Willie Nelson and a bunch of other incredible musicians for Red Dead Redemption 2 for the soundtrack. And then the score composition is just fantastic folk western sound to it.
I'm gonna have to delete like 15 games on my PS4 just to get Red Dead Redemption 2 back on it.
Do it. But the one thing that everyone praised is D'Angelo. D'Angelo just came out of nowhere after like 10 years of nothing. Or technically 10 years of nothing, then a small thing, and then Red Dead. And it is such an incredible song that it is the Red Dead Redemption 2 song. And it's super somber, and it just, the moment you hear it in the game, you're like, oh man, that hits. Oh man, that's a gut punch. And it's crazy, because I'm pretty sure the dude was most well known for like hip hop and like kind of soft rock and stuff. I'm not super familiar with stuff that he did, like kind of R&B stuff. Let's see. Let's use the magic of Google to find out. Yeah, R&B, neo soul, funk, jazz fusion, and some psychedelic rock apparently. But his song Unshaken in Red Dead Redemption 2 is this fantastic, folksy, just soft, somber gut punch of a track. And it's so good. So fantastic. But back to Sean James, his vocals are very unique. Like, I've listened to some of the stuff that you'd shown me, and I've explored a little bit of him. I haven't, like, deep dive down the rabbit hole as I would like to. That's how I listen to most music, is like, all right, we're going to listen to this full album, and then we're going to fully dive into everything that they have. But with Sean James, one band or artist I would say that somewhat reminds me of him is former, I mean, he's still kind of country, artist called Sturgill Simpson. Dude is really talented with some of his country. It's not like garbage modern pop country. It's definitely more towards the bluegrass roots of country that isn't trash. I'm not a huge into country kind of guy, but I dig Johnny Cash, a lot of the classic guys.
Yeah, I like more dark country.
Yeah.
Their themes are focused on like it's a lot of like pseudo-religious themes on vengeance and redemption, stuff like that.
Yeah. Versus I'm drinking beer in a tractor.
Yeah, I slept with my wife who is my best friend slept with my wife who is also my truck.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. So not a huge fan of modern country, unfortunately. It's absolute garbage. But so Sturgill Simpson, is mostly country, except for his latest album that came out last year called Sound and Fury.
Oh, that even sounds cool.
It is. The best part is you'll probably enjoy it because the full album has an animated special on Netflix to go along with it. It's you know that 3D anime where they do like weird cell shaded kind of 3D in anime?
Yeah, I know of that style.
So that's what the whole film is, but
Is
it's
it called Sound and Fury?
Yes.
Oh, I'll have to take a look at
it. Is incredible. Like, I love basically all of the tracks on here, and it's this weird electro country rock, and it's super fantastic. And he has a somewhat similar vocal style, I would say, to Sean James in how he sings. It's not as powerful as Sean James often is. Like, dude's got some real emotion when he sings.
Yeah,
Sturgill Simpson gets close to that, but I wouldn't say it has as much of a ooh factor as Sean James does.
So it's funny because even though he's my favorite, he's probably my favorite artist, and I got introduced to the games that I play. My favorite song of all time is a classical piece.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason it's my favorite is because of a specific... You were talking about the somberness and the gut punch of listening to Unshaken in the context of within the game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for me here for this piece. It's a really simple one. It's Debussy, Clair de Lune. It's probably one of the most overplayed classical songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I didn't really ever listen to it that much because I didn't listen to too much classical until I played Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a specific moment that I'm not going to ruin for anyone here that's listening, where you listen to this song.
Yeah.
And like knowing the context of the actual game and everything, I turned off my PS4 after hearing this piece. Like, I saved it, turned it off, and didn't play the game for a week because that's how much it hurt.
Yeah.
I kid you not that many games can make me cry. I think V3 made me cry after every single trial because it just hurt every single time. I'm like, why does this... It accomplished what the other games I think didn't, but it hurt, and when I listen to it, even though I'm far removed from the gut punch, I still get sad.
Yeah.
In a weird way, but at the same time, it's like good memories, but sadness attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's still something that like I'll listen to, and I'm like, oh man, this hurts.
Now, to ruin all of the sentimental attachment you have to this song, have you seen the stupid Family Guy skit about Debussy?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's a wonderfully stupid skit that literally is the dumbest joke of all time, just repeated over and over again until the very end, where they just finish off with a round of applause for the joke and how, stupid and cheesy it is, but it's so funny.
I'll have to see.
Just look up Family Guy Debussy and Bach, and it's... I'll show it to you, but for the listener, watch it if you haven't seen it already, because it's stupid, and I love it so much.
Now, I've talked about my favorite, both my favorite song and my favorite musician.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk about your favorite band, which I finally gave into and listened to an entire...
Oh, before I know... All right, this episode is going to be long. But I was going to save them for another, full deep dive into music.
Why don't you just talk about your favorite song?
I was going to talk about just my favorite song in general.
Okay.
Because you brought up your favorite song just stands out from everything else that you listen to. My song somewhat does that, but in comparatively to the large amount of punk and ska and everything that I listen to. So my favorite track of all time is by The Cure, which I like The Cure a lot. I don't listen to a ton of them. I don't listen to a ton of goth or dark wave or any of that as much as shout out to my boy Manny. He used to run his show on Titan Radio that I used to do back when we could actually do college radio. Yeah. He had a show about all that kind of sad music, and it was fantastic. But, so I really love this song by The Cure. It's not even a deep cut at all. It's Love Song. And it is such a fantastic composition because of what the bass is doing, what the guitar is doing throughout the song, and even Robert Smith's vocals throughout are just so killer. And this is one of the songs where the lyrics I really do like hit, and I'm like, ah. And it's something that didn't hit me really hard until I had a relationship. And then I listened to it, and then I'm like, oh. And then after the relationship ended, and I listened to it, and I'm like, oh. It's that kind of a song.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll ever be dethroned as my favorite song of all time, because it's just too good.
Yeah.
In everything about it, and kind of the, like you said with yours, the sentimental attachment to it and everything.
I think that's the other thing, because there are songs that I think you and I personally like that aren't, I don't think either one of us would necessarily consider like the upper echelon of incredible music,
Yeah.
or timeless music, but because there is a sentiment attached to it, that's what sticks it there. Like the context of why we're listening to it and
Yeah.
what caused us to listen to it, I think sometimes we'll keep that there for a while.
The other thing about Love Song is that it has a cover by a band called 311. 311 is a bit of a cheesy band. They're reggae grunge.
Interesting.
So, reggae rock is fine and all, but what if we just went even scummier with it? Is what 311's approach to music making was. I'm not a huge fan of theirs, and this song really made me despise them, because they have the single worst cover of this song that I have ever heard. And I listened to it, and I'm like, I don't want you guys to touch music again. Because it's not that on its own it's that bad. It's still pretty bad, but it's not that bad. But in context, in comparison to the original too, it's like
Like,
why?
if the original didn't exist, it wouldn't be nearly as bad as it.
It wouldn't be nearly as offensive to the ear as their cover is.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because a lot of people like it, and I'm like, how do you enjoy this? Because I saw, whoa, 311 has a cover of this, and I'm like, because I like some of their stuff, and I listened to it, and I'm like, wow, no.
You lost all good faith.
Yeah. And then eventually 311 would partner up with another one of my favorite bands, The Offspring. And they each did a cover of one of their songs. So Offspring covered a 311 song, 311 covered an Offspring song. And I'm like, wow, neither of you succeeded in what you tried to do.
At least they feel together.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I love song, especially when you've listened to it and really paid attention to the lyrics. And then, like, I started listening to it nonstop after the breakup, and I'm like, cool. But yeah, I think we've gone on long enough with our discussion of music. We'll do more of it.
Yeah, I think this one was actually our most lively one, going back and forth.
Mostly because I didn't feel the pressure of having to deal with mics and like, all right, echo, because I'm just going to kill myself in editing this. Yeah. I'm actually going to just sit down and say, you know what, it's time to edit. And I'm going to cry afterwards.
Don't worry, I'm going to be getting that bug soon once my once my capture card comes in tomorrow.
Oh yeah, once you start recording, and then you can share in my pain of editing, and you're going to have to edit video though. I literally just get to slap a screenshot in the video and say, call it a day.
But I think once I get the hang of it and enjoy it, oh man, the finished product's going to feel so good.
Yeah, dude. Once you get done with it, we'll link you in the description, and then you better link me back.
No, yeah, I'm definitely doing that. I'm thinking about reaching out to Matt and changing my name officially, since
Yeah.
And I already have a platform technically with my stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it's always a pleasure to do this. It's more exciting every time we do it.
Yeah, again, half the reason I like doing podcasts is for my own self-interest.
Yeah.
Because it brings out really interesting conversations. Who cares who listens? Screw all of you, audience.
But I would like for you guys to listen. So
yeah, we need to get big enough to where we can sell out.
I was going to say so we could get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
So we can sell out.
Yeah. Raid sold out Legends.
Yeah.
This is V, the pseudo lizard man.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was the lore we've kind of abandoned the lore for a little bit.
We'll bring it back eventually.
All right. I think you're a robot now.
Emma, yeah.
For no reason at all other than just this moment 5 seconds ago, I decided you were a robot.
You know what? I have been saying in the Discord that I am Monokuma and he is a robot, so I'm a robot. I am actually a robot, not a lizard.
All right, that makes sense.
All right, everybody.
You may develop into a robot lizard in the future, though.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. It just depends what I feel my flavor of the day is.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is Vince.
It's your boy Richard,
See you
and
next week on the VR Shiz Show.
we'll be back with actually addressing topics in the future, hopefully, or something new, or we lied to you, or this was all a scam. Bye.